Today we're going to talk about the thyroid gland and specifically the anatomy of the thyroid gland. So this is the thyroid gland. You can see it is placed on the anterior and the anterolateral aspect of the trachea and the laryngeal area. So on the top you have the thyroid cartilage. So this is the thyroid cartilage. This is the cricoid cartilage. In this area you have the cricoid muscle and the cricoid ligament, cricothyroid muscle and the cricothyroid ligament. And this is the thyroid gland. You have the left and right lobes, the pyramidal lobe, the isthmus, and the tracheal rings. A few words regarding the development of the embryology of thyroid gland. So thyroid gland develops from a median downgrowth of cells from the pharyngeal floor between the first and the second pharyngeal pouches. So this column of cells, which is seen here, this forms a thyroglossal duct, and this descends downwards, bifurcates to form the thyroid lobes and the pyramidal lobe. So you can see here. The thyroid gland usually weighs around 20-25 grams and is located in the anterior aspect of the neck and is enclosed within the pretracheal fascia. It has two lobes and one isthmus, and in 30% individuals, it has a pyramidal lobe. So each lobe is around 5 into 3 into 1.5 centimeter and extends from the level of the thyroid cartilage to up to the sixth tracheal ring. But the isthmus, the central portion of the gland, is only 1.5 to 1.5 centimeter and extends from the second to the fourth tracheal rings. A pyramidal lobe is not routinely seen, and it is seen in 30% individuals as an upward extension from the isthmus. Thyroid has two capsules, a true capsule and a false capsule. The true capsule is the condensed connective tissue layer, and the blood vessels are usually deep to it. The false capsule covers the true capsule and is formed from the pretracheal layer of the deep cervical fascia. So the surgical plane of dissection is actually between the false and the true capsule because it is a avascular plane. So this diagram again shows the thyroid gland here overlying the trachea. Laterally you can see the extend up to the thyroid cartilage above and below up to the sixth tracheal ring. And the isthmus is only from the second to fourth ring. Now the right structure is the arch of aorta, and from there comes the common carotid artery, which gives the superior thyroid artery to the gland. Similarly, the blue structure is the superior vena cava, formed by the two left and right innominate veins, which is formed by the corresponding subclavian and the internal jugular vein. I will come to that in a minute's time. So the arterial supply. The superior thyroid artery, which is a branch of the external carotid artery, enters the gland near the superior pole and supplies the upper 1/3 of the lobe and the upper half of the isthmus. So there will be two superior thyroid arteries coming from either side. Similarly, the inferior thyroid artery, a branch of the thyrocervical trunk, which is a branch of the first part of the subclavian artery. It enters the posterolateral aspect of the gland and supplies the lower 2/3 of the lobes and the lower half of the isthmus. These two are the major two arteries supplying thyroid gland. Now, in some, a thyroidea ima artery is also seen, which may be seen as a small direct branch of the aorta or the brachiocephalic artery. And it usually enters and supplies the isthmus or the lower pole of the lateral lobes. So this shows the arch of aorta, the left subclavian artery, the left common carotid artery going all the way up, dividing into external and the external giving rise to the superior thyroid artery. Similarly, the left subclavian giving rise to the thyrocervical trunk, which gives to the inferior thyroid artery and supplying the lateral lobe of the gland. Similarly, on the right side, we have the right brachiocephalic trunk dividing into right common carotid and right subclavian. And again, the common carotid, external carotid branch, from there the superior thyroid artery. And from the subclavian, we have the thyrocervical trunk and the branch going as the inferior thyroid artery. And this small branch over here can be considered as a thyroidea ima artery. It's a direct branch of the aorta or sometimes from the right brachiocephalic trunk. Now the venous supply, we have three major veins. The superior thyroid vein drains into the internal jugular vein. The middle thyroid vein also drains into the internal jugular vein. And then you have another vein known as the coccus thyroid vein, which is not commonly seen, but that is also found between the middle and the inferior thyroid vein, and that also drains into the internal jugular vein. And the fourth one is the inferior thyroid vein. It is not a single vein. It may be 2 to 3 veins, and they usually uh, drain into the brachiocephalic vein. So superior thyroid vein, middle thyroid vein, and if present, the coccus vein drain into the internal jugular vein. And the fourth one, the inferior thyroid vein, drains into the brachiocephalic vein. Brachiocephalic vein is also known as the innominate vein. So here you can see this major venous trunk here is a superior vena cava, and the two ones which join to form it are the left and right brachiocephalic vein or the left and right innominate vein. Now each innominate vein is formed by the left subclavian and the left internal jugular. Similarly on the right side, the right subclavian and the right internal jugular. So you can see the superior thyroid vein draining into the internal jugular vein, middle thyroid vein draining to the internal jugular, and the inferior thyroid veins draining directly to the brachiocephalic vein. Now, the last part of the anatomy, and you can say not the last part, just before going to physiology, as far as anatomy is concerned, the last part. So that is the lymphatic drainage. So here there is an extensive lymphatic network within the thyroid gland. So I'll just name the nodes here. The important nodes are the prelaryngeal nodes. You have the pretracheal and the paratracheal node, and then you have the perithyroidal node. Now, besides this, you have the upper jugular nodes and the lower jugular nodes. So everything finally drains through the lower jugular nodes. So the prelaryngeal node receives the drainage from the upper anterior aspect of both the thyroid lobes and the isthmus and the larynx. And from there, it has two options. Either it can drain to the upper jugular node and then thereby reach the lower jugular node and drain out. Second option, it can go down and drain into the paratracheal nodes and pretracheal nodes, and from there go into the lower jugular nodes. Now, from the paratracheal and pretracheal nodes, they receive drainage from the rest of the thyroid gland, and they directly drain into the lower jugular nodes. A few nodes along the perithyroidal nodes, they are seen along the superior and inferior thyroid veins. They also eventually drain into the lower jugular nodes. So the term central nodal compartment includes all of these nodes, that is the level 6 nodes, and along with that, the mediastinal nodes above the level of the innominate artery. So you can see the prelaryngeal nodes over here. Then you have the pretracheal nodes over in front of the trachea, paratracheal on either side. Then you have the upper jugular nodes and the lower jugular nodes. So where does the thyroid gland stay? So the right and left thyroid lobes are actually located in the space between the trachea and the esophagus on one side and the carotid sheath on the other side. So you have carotid sheath on either side, that's on the left and right, and you have the trachea and esophagus in the middle. So the both lobes are actually in their respective position between these three structures. The rectolaryngeal nerve lies in the tracheoesophageal groove. So the left one lies in the left groove and the right one lies in the right groove. So it's basically posterior to the thyroid gland. Now the external laryngeal branch of the superior laryngeal nerve that accompanies the superior thyroid artery. So usually the rectolaryngeal nerve is a branch from the vagus. Similarly, you have the superior laryngeal nerve, which is a branch from the vagus, which divides into external and internal laryngeal nerve. And the external laryngeal branch is of importance to us because it lies and travels along with the superior thyroid artery. Similarly, the parathyroid glands, you have two superior and two inferior, but the number may vary from 2 to 9. And they're usually seen on the posterior aspect of the thyroid gland and in close relation to the thyroid. That will be dealt with on the topic parathyroid glands. So once again, the hyoid bone, the thyrohyoid ligament, thyroid cartilage, cricothyroid muscle, cricothyroid ligament, and this is the tracheal rings below that, and you have the thyroid gland overlying there. So you can say that only the isthmus is on the anterior aspect, but the both lobes are actually lateral to the trachea and esophagus. Now here you can see the artery, the common carotid, external carotid, and the superior thyroid artery. You can see the vagus going. There is a yellow nerve-like structure on the side, on both sides. It gives a supralaryngeal nerve on the top, and it gives a rectolaryngeal nerve in the bottom. So supralaryngeal nerve divides into external and internal. Internal goes through the thyroid ligament, while the external goes down to supply the cricothyroid muscle. And that travels along with the superior thyroid artery. So about the physiology. So thyroid gland contains lobules. Each lobule contains around 24 to 40 follicles, which are lined with cuboidal epithelium. And the follicle contains the colloid, which is having the stored thyroglobulin. The two hormones T3 and T4, that is triiodothyronine and levothyroxine, are bound within the thyroglobulin and within the colloid and stored within the colloid. So whenever the hormone is required, this thyroglobulin hormone complex is resorbed into the cell and then broken down to release the T3 and T4 into the blood. And when released in the blood, they are usually bound, more than 99% are bound to the proteins like albumin, thyroxine binding globulin, and thyroxine binding prealbumin. A very small percentage only free, and this free form is actually biologically active. So about 0.03% of T4 and 0.3% of T3 are actually free, and they are biologically active and responsible for the hyperthyroidism and hypothyroidism. A few words about the function of the thyroid gland. So this thyroxine hormone is very important in the regulation of the basal metabolic rate. So whenever the level increases, then the basal metabolic rate also increases. Similarly, it's important for the normal psychosomatic growth. It has a chronotropic and inotropic effect on the heart. So hypothyroidism will result in bradycardia, and thyrotoxicosis will result in tachycardia. It is required for the normal respiratory drive and is required for normal hematopoiesis. Saying this, I thank you. In the next session, that is the second part of this same, we'll deal with how to draw the various structures, including the thyroid gland and its relations, the arterial supply, venous supply, the nerves, the relation of the nerves, and the lymphatic drainage. Thank you.